As for the second part of the Module 1, as I promised, I have integrated CompTIA Security Plus in our course. So most topics on this part 2 are part of the CompTIA Security Plus. So we are to discuss in this part 2 security policy, information security competencies, um, different types of threat actors. Those are the ones listed below. And all about open source intelligence, deep web, and threat intelligence source. Security policy. It is a formalized statement that defines how security will be implemented within an organization. Implementation of the policy should support the CIA triad. First step in establishing a security policy is to obtain support and commitment to the organization. And the next step is to analyze risks to security. By definition, a risk is the likelihood and impact of an actor exercising a vulnerability. Once risk is identified, next is to implement controls that detect and prevent losses and procedures that enable the organization to recover from these losses. Last is to review, test, and update procedures continually. An organization must ensure compliance with the security policy and relevance of that policy to new and changing risks. Um, what, one example I have in mind is the security policy being created by different universities for the full online setup or for a blended learning setup. Like if we were to consider what I had just mentioned, like first step is to ensure support and commitment to the organization. So what the management did, what some of the management did is to encourage students that uh, to encourage students to support a full online setup because even actually DepEd and CHED, as I've noticed in news, that a priority is the health of the students. So we have to make this full online setup or environment to work and be effective. So next on the step is, okay, if we were to implement a full online setup, so how will this setup be? Definitely there are risks. No, there are employees inside the university that are not needed. So what will the university do to them? Another, there are courses that may not work in a full online setup. So how will that be possible? Um, so uh, so these are examples of risk assessment. Now we are implementing a full online setup. So we are in the process of the testing that includes assessment and monitoring. In the monitoring, there is a monitoring of compliance. So there the guidelines set by the management, like for example with us teachers, there are a series of guidelines set, and the management of the university should monitor if these compliance are being observed by, say, the faculty. So there, no, that's about security policy. We'll discuss more about security policy during our live session. I have here a list of information security competencies. Uh, that is to participate in risk assessment and testing of security systems and make recommendation. Also important to specify, install and configure secure devices and software, maintain document access control and user privilege profiles. There should be monitoring of audit logs and review user privileges, manage security-related incident reporting, participate in security training and education programs, and create and test business continuity and disaster recovery plans. As we go along, there are mechanisms, framework, models that deals with what I have mentioned, and we are to deal with this in the other discussions. Next, uh, on this part two are threat actors. Um, Known threats are no are classified as static. Example of known threats are virus, trojans, botnets, DOS. They are static Um, these are programs where you just install it on the computer you want to attack, and then that's it. It will do its part. On the other hand, adversaries are um, usually these are the threat actors that develop means of circumventing security system. It's more advanced, it's more dynamic. Um Later, we will cover some of the threat actors that are considered as adversaries. Um, Nature of modern cybersecurity threats means it is simply to describe and analyze behavior as well as enumerate known threat patterns. Important to distinguish the types of threat actors in terms of location, sophistication, resources, and intent. An attacker could be motivated by greed, curiosity, or some sort of grievance. The intent, on the other hand, could be to vandalize and disrupt a system or to steal something. Uh, we must also consider sophistication and level of resources that different adversaries might possess. There's this what we call as an opportunistic attack. It might be launched by simply using tools found in the internet, while a targeted attack might use sophisticated tool with a budget which allocate resources and manpower to achieve its attack. So I have here a list of different threat actors. First is hacker. A hacker, in its true definition, are users who excel at programming and computer systems administration. We actually have two. There's this what we called as white hat and black hat. Usually white hat are known as professional hackers. They usually hack into a system. It's authorized. And the reason is because they want to find vulnerabilities in that system. So in a way for the administrator of the system to know, identify the loopholes, and find means to address these issues, these vulnerabilities. On the other hand, a black hat or black hacker are malicious. No, unauthorized. They do unauthorized access to a system. A script kiddie are hackers which has no knowledge or ability to craft new attack. They just Google a procedure they found in the internet, and um, if they are lucky and uh, given access to the system, so then they are classified as a script kiddie. The one that has no experience at all, no expertise, and they are just really so lucky in hacking the system. They hack the system um, without even them knowing what happened. They are called as newbies. Hacktivists are groups. Examples are Anonymous, WikiLeaks, and these groups uses cyber weapons to promote political agenda. So it's somehow a political in nature. I remember before uh, someone posted uh, yes, someone posted in the Wikipedia an information to Binay, right? And he said Binay is the Dark Vader, something like that. So that is one example of a hacktivist. An organized crime can operate across the internet from different jurisdictions than its victim, increasing the complexity of prosecution. Usually it seeks for profit, and typical activities include financial fraud and blackmail. Competitors, on the other hand, they are driven um, and aims to disrupting a competitor's business or damaging their reputation. They might be facilitated by employees who have recently changed companies and bring an element of insider knowledge with them. Okay. Uh, I remember when we went to Korea, there's that one company, they have a policy when you work with them is, and uh, when you resign, you are not allowed to work to a a company which of the same nature. Okay. Well, because you may be uh, expected as you are a cyber espionage. Your agenda may get information from them and uh, give this information to their competitor. Uh, Another threat actor is nation states. These nation states have developed expertise, and they use cyber weapons to achieve both military and commercial goals. If a nation state or a group of attackers are so eager to attack a system, and their actions are ongoing, and they are really eager, and they really wanted to compromise network security using a variety of tools and techniques. That is how we define an advanced persistent threat. So when the penetrator of an attack is a member of, or ex-member, or affiliated with the organization's own staff, this is how we call that is an insider threat. To mitigate these kinds of threats, best is to implement operation and management controls such as auditing. There are also other means to protect our organization from insider threats, just like job rotation and list privileges, implementing list privileges. We will discuss these different means in one of the chapters. Okay. There were other studies who said that the number of insider threats is higher as compared to external threats in a given organization. So that's why these types of threat actors, setting protection from these kinds of threat actors is very important. There's this what we call as open source intelligence. No? There's this what we call as reconnaissance. When we say reconnaissance, these are information gathering. And there are two types of reconnaissance, passive and active. So if an attacker wants to stalk his or her victims to discover information about them, and the way it does is through Google search or go to a social media, say Facebook, in order to obtain certain information. That's passive reconnaissance. If an attacker uses a sophisticated tool to gather information, that's the active reconnaissance. Okay, you know what? There are websites that provides open source that provides information which may be helpful for an attacker or a hacker or intruder. We call it as open source intelligence. As we go along, I will show you some of these websites that attackers use, and they are again classified as open source intelligence. There is a more detailed discussion on open source intelligence in penetration testing. And then we have this deep web. The deep web is part of the World Wide Web, not indexed by a search engine. These include pages that require registration, pages that block search engine indexing, unlinked pages, and content encoded in a non-standard manner. The deep web can be accessed through darknet. So in order for your computer to access the darknet, you need a Tor. We call it as the onion router. It's a special type of a browser actually, the Tor. And the Freenet, a software, an I2P, a peer-to-peer platform software, which acts to anonymize usage and prevent a third party from knowing about the existence of the network. Okay, so in the deep web, there are sites, contents, and services, softwares. Uh, Again, which can be accessible over the dark net. We call that as dark web. Okay. Again, you know what? When we search in for Google, diba? Google is a search engine. We can search lots of information in Google. You know what? What Google can only found in the World Wide Web in terms of information is only just 5%. Okay? 95% of informations that the internet has are to be found in the uh, deep web. Okay? Because there are certain informations, websites that do not use HTML. It's non-standard, right? That's what we mean by non-standard manner, or not properly indexed. And it is intentional. So these are examples of the deep web. So, cyber attacks, they are less effective if they are well known. Okay, imagine if attacks are being published, or there's a website where you can see these different types of attacks, and it has suggestion on how you can protect your system from these types of attacks. So this somehow helps. Uh, it is of help for attackers not use these tools or not conduct these types of attacks, because uh, if they notice that most companies has protection from these types of attacks, then definitely what happens is that kind of attack is being degraded. So point here is that there are websites. These are the ones listed in these slides, um, that provides information about attacks. Some of these websites even provides information on how to mitigate and mitigate the attack and protect your system from these different types of attacks. As we go along, we will cover informations found in these websites. Also very important for a security analyst or someone who is into security, for a security professional to be updated, and you should be monitoring these websites and news groups. So um, this ends my discussion for part 2. I hope to see you on the last video for module 1. Thank you.